the Holocaust killed 6 million Jewish people between 1941 and 1945. For decades after the war, the dominant explanation offered by ordinary Germans was that they had not known, that the extermination camps were secret, that the regime had hidden what it was doing, and that the German public was an unwitting bystander to crimes committed in their name. That explanation has been examined closely by historians for decades. The evidence does not support it. The persecution of Jewish people in Germany did not begin in secret. It began in public immediately after Hitler came to power in 1933. Within months, anti-Jewish laws stripped Jewish people of their citizenship rights, barred them from government jobs, and removed them from public life. The regime organized public boycotts of Jewish businesses, with SA stormtroopers standing outside Jewish-owned shops, turning customers away. Jewish people were publicly humiliated, forced to scrub pavements on their hands and knees while crowds watched. The Nuremberg laws of 1935 legally defined Jewish people as second-class non-citizens and criminalized marriage between Jews and non-Jews. Then came Kristallnacht in November 1938, a nationwide pogrom in which synagogues were burned, Jewish businesses were destroyed, and Jewish people were beaten in the streets across Germany and Austria. It lasted 2 days and took place in full public view. Nobody who lived in Germany during the 1930s could have been unaware that the state was systematically persecuting Jewish people. It was not a rumor, it was government policy enacted in plain sight. The invasion of Poland in September 1939 marked a major escalation. Overnight, Germany found itself ruling over more than 2 million additional Jewish people. The Nazi regime concentrated these Jews into sealed ghettos in occupied cities such as Warsaw. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced from their homes and crammed into overcrowded districts surrounded by walls and barbed wire. Food rations were deliberately kept below subsistence level, disease spread rapidly, and tens of thousands died from starvation and exposure. The creation of the ghettos was not hidden. News travelled back to Germany through letters, newspapers, soldiers on leave, and civilians working in the occupied territories. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union 2 years later, in 1941, the ghettos turned to mass murder. Mobile killing units called Einsatzgruppen followed the advancing German army, rounding up Jewish communities and shooting them in mass graves. The largest single massacre at Babi Yar near Kiev killed more than 30,000 people in 2 days. These shootings were not secret operations. They were carried out in open fields by thousands of soldiers, witnessed by local populations, and participated in by ordinary German police battalions alongside SS units. Soldiers wrote home about what they had seen and done. Photographs were taken and shared. Men rotated in and out of these units and returned to Germany on leave. The shootings required enormous numbers of people: perpetrators, logistical support, observers, and the knowledge of what was happening spread through the networks of everyone connected to them. In 1942, the Nazi leadership formalized what they called the final solution to the Jewish question. No more persecution of Jewish people, no more ghettos, and no more mass shootings, but the systematic extermination of all Jewish people in Europe using purpose-built death camps equipped with gas chambers. Jewish people across Germany and occupied Europe were rounded up and put onto trains. Ordinary Germans watched their Jewish neighbors receive deportation notices, pack their belongings, and disappear. The furniture left behind was auctioned off publicly. Neighbors and strangers attended these sales and bought the chairs, tables, and household goods of people who had just been taken away. Jewish-owned homes sat empty. Businesses were transferred, children vanished from schools. Nobody receiving a deportation notice was told they were being sent somewhere pleasant. The word resettlement was used officially, but the visible mechanics, the notices, the packed trains, the abandoned homes, the public auctions of the property of people who would never return, left very little for an attentive observer to misunderstand. The camps, Auschwitz-Birkenau, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Chelmno, Majdanek, operated with enormous workforces. They were built by construction companies whose workers returned home afterward. They were connected to the German railway network whose administrators coordinated the schedules. They were supplied by German companies. Guards rotated in and out and went home on leave. The conclusion from all of this is not that every German knew every detail. Most ordinary Germans did not know about the specifics of gas chambers, and also the full scale 6 million people was not broadly understood during the war. But the broad reality was not hidden from those willing to see it. Historians have concluded that the most accurate description of German public awareness is not ignorance, but willful ignorance, a deliberate choice not to ask questions whose answers they did not want to know. Interestingly, 2 men tried to tell the world directly from the inside. Witold Pilecki was a Polish resistance soldier who deliberately allowed himself to be captured and sent to Auschwitz, with the goal of gathering intelligence and organizing resistance from within. He spent nearly 3 years inside the camp, smuggling out reports detailing the conditions, the killings, and the camp's systematic operation. He eventually escaped in 1943 and delivered his reports to the Polish government in exile in London. Rudolf Vrba was a Slovak Jewish prisoner who escaped from Auschwitz in April 1944, along with Alfred Wetzler. Together they compiled a 32-page report, the Vrba-Wetzler report, that described in precise detail the layout of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the selection process, and the functioning of the gas chambers, including specific capacity and daily killing rates. The report reached Allied governments and Jewish community leaders in the West by mid-1944. Both men provided detailed, first-hand, documented accounts of what was happening. So although everyone knew, the most important question remains: why didn't more people resist? The answer has 2 parts. The first is that a significant portion of the German population genuinely supported it. Years of state propaganda had normalized anti-Semitism and embedded it into everyday life, and many Germans approved of what was being done to Jewish people, or at minimum did not object. The second part applies to those who did not approve. Germany under the Nazi regime was a totalitarian state, with a comprehensive apparatus of surveillance, denunciation, and punishment. The Gestapo, the SS, and the network of civilian informants made open dissent extraordinarily dangerous. People who had spoken against the regime, sheltered Jewish people, or resisted in other ways were imprisoned, sent to concentration camps, or executed themselves. Click the video on your screen right now and I'll explain another everyday mystery you've wondered about your whole life but never thought to look up.